Now, I want you to go back through that, and I'm going to see if I got something wrong here. So after the Bills game, it's really where it seems like it just dropped off.
It fell off a cliff. He played 27 snaps against Indy, and I wonder if that was because maybe did Fulton.
No, what was the next game after the Bills?
He played one the next game against the Raiders. He
played
one, and 7 special team snaps.
And all I can remember is he got beat on a deep ball, but he tackled a guy we didn't even know who he was initially, and then come to find out he's playing a lot now. Number 10, I forgot his name. I never even heard of the receiver. And what I'm getting to is that same game, guys. Trey Avery got beat too. Remember, by Diggs. And I said, why the heck do they have Diggs on? Why would you do that?
Right.
And guess what has happened to him? He's gotten better each and every time. The coaches have shown a little more faith in him because of what they're seeing in time. And now an undrafted guy is really ahead of the first round guy.
Oh.
That is telling. And while he was still playing now, and with no injury and no back issue or anything else. Well, now all of a sudden, Avery is now ahead of Mitchell. Is Mitchell still on the team? The veteran who was showing flashes of, oh, man, all right, this is a good find. Right? That they picked up after the season started.
Yep. D. Mitch.
Yeah, exactly. Because he got, beat for some tough touchdowns against the Raiders here at home. And then he improved a lot, too. He was a little rusty. I think he was on the streets, or was he on somebody's practice squad? Yeah, he's gotten better, too.
Wasn't Mitchell on the Patriots practice
squad?
Was he
on the Patriots practice? You may be right.
Yeah, it was Patriots.
Right. Yeah, that's on the streets to me. He only practiced in 3 days. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yep. The weekend, you got it. Monday, Tuesday, come in here and lift weights. You want to watch film? Yeah, that's where we're at. So both of those guys are better than Farley, in my eyes.
Man, that's how.
Wow, that is like tanking. Boom, he tanked. Like he ain't got it.
I remember sitting in the press box during one of those games where he didn't play on defense. And I don't remember if somebody tweeted this or if they said it. And you and me and Buck sat next to each other, and Sam Phelan and Maurice Patton and Terry McCormick. That's kind of the crew that's down there.
Mm-hmm.
And either somebody said or tweeted the Titans had a kickoff huddle. And they said, it was either kick or kick return, and they're out there and, like getting fired up or whatever because it's commercial break, and then they released the huddle to either go kick it or return it. But it was a straight-up special teams huddle, and whoever it was said Caleb Farley was in the middle of the huddle, and then he went back to the sidelines, and the other guys went out and, kicked or covered the kick. And at that point, you have to think, like, I'm not ahead of dudes who, like, were on a couch 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a lot. They don't even trust me enough to have me out here to kick or cover a kick or whatever
Special
it was.
Teams, right.
And then look at Avery, and you're like, and this dude's snap count's going up every week.
Mm-hmm. And, by the way, the last 4 weeks, Lucas love this. I saw the stat. I don't know if it's true or not, but I saw it. Somebody tweeted it. I think he's first or second in the most pass breakups the last 4 weeks in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my scouting prowess, I should get an A+. I said he was going to make the roster. Nobody was paying attention or missing it, Trey Avery. Now, even though he got toasted for that Bills game after he made the roster, like, hey, man, this guy's okay. I'm not going to talk about he's going to be a starter or anything like that, but he can be serviceable. He can be the Maben guy, of the team where, hey, man, we put him out there, he'll hold it for you. We won't be outnumbered out there with this guy. We can manage through it, and that's what he's shown.
You had to learn to play in the NFL. So does everybody else. So does he.
Yep.
Maybe you get burned. Everybody gets burned.
That's what I said.
Though.
Why did he put him out there against Diggs, though? I mean, now you go from undrafted to I'm going to go against one of the better receivers in the National Football League?
Yeah.
Let's not start there. And then man-to-man, too. Then he was supposed to be third. And I think lesson learned, you know what? he got better after that. He understood his responsibilities. He was better on the techniques and everything else. They kept coaching him up, and boom, this is what we've gotten. This may be the best he'll ever be. I'm not talking about he'll be a starter, but he has a role as a fourth, fifth guy on the roster, and you feel pretty comfortable as a young player that now he can hold the fort if we have a couple injuries. I mean, he was balling even again. I know he got beat, but he was right there with A.J. Brown, no different than McCrary or Fulton. He was just like them. He just didn't make the play against some elite receivers. So, yeah, I like his game. Got to watch him.
AJ is asking in his own TV chat, by the way. You
Not
can
A.J. Brown.
Hit us up there. No, AJ Parkinson, it says. He said, could this injury have been bothering him all season?
A back injury? I don't know. I just don't think you can play with a back injury. I don't know. It may have happened during the season, obviously. But there's a lot of conversation. I don't know nothing about back injuries that when he got his first initial back surgery, he should have corrected something else at that time. And so I don't know if that's true or not. And I don't know if that's what this injury is or was that the one that he had, during the draft process or anything. But 3 back surgeries, man, that's a huge, and I mean catastrophic red sign. Dude, you stay away from that.
You have told this story, so I'm not speaking out of turn. You have a teammate who was an explosive NFL football player. You have somebody that played in the league who had these problems, and it did a number on their career. Like once you start getting into back stuff.
Oh, yeah. That spine. Yeah, you don't want to mess it. And lucky for him, he's not in not in combat every play like an offensive lineman or D lineman. So you think you want to manage through it, and it wasn't major. But even though they're not major, it's a back, and it can be detrimental to your whole entire system as far as how you operate as an individual. And I can say this, and everybody knows who's had surgery, and whatever it was, back, knee, ankle, whatever, wrist, forearm, that will never, ever, 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 never be the same. It will never be the same, ever. None of my 11 surgeries are ever the way they were before.
Yeah.
None of them.
Blaine, I just think of regular people who've had back problems, and the doctor has told them the last thing in the world I want to do is cut into anything on your back. Let's do everything we can. I've had my mom has like bones from her arm fused into her neck.
Oh, that's just a nightmare for me.
My next door neighbor,
I'm done.
For years, she was having all these problems, and they waited until just the very end until they said, this is the only thing we can do now is we're going to have to cut you open and do surgery. So,
and how did they, do you feel like they were ever the same?
Oh, gosh, my mom can't turn her head. She can't turn her head, can't drive on the interstate. Like if you've ever seen a Frankenstein movie, the way he moves, where everything up top moves at once, that's the way her whole thing moves. So, I mean,
yeah.
I feel terrible for anybody who's going through anything like this. I feel terrible for this kid because, a lot of the narrative on Jon Robinson, getting back to that again, we're 12 minutes into the show and haven't mentioned Jon Robinson's name.
Maybe that's how Vrabel felt when he had a horrible roster for offensive linemen. He couldn't move his neck. Because he was a little perturbed that he had not a lot to work with.
Well, I mean, one of the narratives is no first-round pick of his has ever gotten a second contract or even had their option picked up with the caveat, the one was Zadori Jackson, they picked his up and still cut him.
Yeah, that don't
because it was the last year you could do it.
Yeah.
So no one had it picked up and exercised ever. Well, this dude, they got to do it after next year. You do it after year 3. You pick up the 5th-year option after year 3. Or it's before year 4 you have to pick up year 5. There's nothing that says how this guy has such a wall to climb to make any kind of significant impact, to even be on the team in his 4th year at this point.
Oh, no. Did they pick up Marcus's?
They did Marcus, but he was the last pick of
Right.
Rustin.
Right.
That was the last draft for them.
I remember
Marcus
he was
did
here,
get
but
it.
he was just standing on the sideline making $20 million, right? And that's when they were kind of subbing
He
me.
stood on the sidelines.
Yeah. Well,
made
he's
20
standing on the
million.
sideline again, by the way, so we'll catch you on break because Marcus Mariota was benched today.
He sure was for Des Ritter. All right, here's what we got. Mark Long, who covers the Jags, is going to join us in hour number 2. Robbie's on the phone from Brentwood, wants to talk about Farley. Jason's on the phone from Nashville, wants to talk about Farley. We'll talk about Farley next, or we'll talk about Jon Robinson or Titans. We got lots of stuff to get to, and you will be included in that. 615-737-1045 on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Blaine and Mickey, we want the funk all the time. We'll go to the Mark Spain hotline to get the funk from you. Jason, Bobby, you want to join them? 615-737-1045.
About to get the phone.
Bobby was up first. Damn it, Bobby. What's going on, Bobby?
What's up,
what you got,
guys?
buddy?
What's happening, Bobby?
Listen, I'm going to make the point. Your comments about Avery and Farley were well taken, but I want to tell you a little story. I looked at the Patriots, their first and second team. I just went to Yahoo,
Okay.
and I wanted to record what round they were taken in, and I'm kind of assuming that the Patriots have a good record over the last 10 to 15 years.
As
And
far
the
as
thing
draft
I found-
picks?
Yeah. Well,
Not so much. I mean, people make assumptions because it's Bill, but he doesn't do a good job drafting either.
Well, I want to say it's the quality of the teams, and I still wanted to see where the players were drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no doubt the percentages, and it's a percentage that the first and second rounds produce the best players.
Okay.
But I came away thinking that all the rounds make contributions, and what really surprised me was the amount of undrafted free agents. And I did this with the Titans too.
Yep.
And I would do it with every team in the NFL, but I got another job to work, you
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
So I'm making the point. I think we place too much emphasis on rounds 1 and 2. You know, when the draft comes up, it's a lot of hype, et cetera. But I think every draft is important. Every undrafted free agent pick is important. And I'm going to get out there and let you guys talk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no. To his point, it is, and the guys who get drafted later, it's because they didn't reach something is against them as far as they're not the right height. Maybe they don't have clock speed, but they have game speed, whatever it may be. Where the guy that goes in the first round and maybe even 2 rounds at times, he reaches all the measurable and he's this freakish athlete. But that doesn't mean he's a freakish football player. Those guys that go from 3 and down typically are that. And that's how they've gotten in and can compete with those guys on most days, unless those freakish athletes outwork them and outplay them in certain instances because they put the work in. Some of those guys don't put the work in because they've been such great athletes, they don't have to. And sometimes those guys can catch up to them. It was kind of interesting. I hadn't divulged this, but I remember having a conversation with a GM that the first round guys are harder to evaluate than all the rest. And I go, well, man, that's odd. Why is that? Like, I mean, they're great athletes. They should be great football players. He said, because sometimes we swing for all the athleticism, but the production's not there. And the first thing came to my mind was, then I'm not drafting that guy. If the athleticism doesn't meet the production, then he's not the guy. He is not the dude. It's the dude who matches up with the athleticism is the guy you go for, and that's the guy who turns in not to just an all-pro guy. He turns into a Hall of Fame guy because that means he's putting the work in with all that athleticism. So, and then you get in there and you start saying, well, he graded out at this. Well, that doesn't mean he's going to be successful more than the 3rd-round pick if he's not putting the work in.
Right.
Because at some point, the rubber meets the road in the pros, and you're going to match, you're going to be matched up against some guys just as good as you, or his athleticism or his brains or his instincts are going to beat you out because you're not putting the work in. So, yeah. So that happens to a lot of GMs. That's why some of them don't want first-round picks. They trade them away. Because they say, well, when we go with the most talented, I don't know how much he really is going to help us now. He's going to get here and just kind of, go through the motion. Good player, but he should be great. He should be impacting our team now. Right now.
GM Blaine Bishop, though, you've talked a lot about your philosophy on first-rounders. And honestly, if you make that investment in somebody and you do the research, that dude needs to be a stalwart on your team
immediately. And
for
he
a
may
while.
start off slow, but guess what? As time goes on, during that season, you'll be like, okay, now I see why they took him. Yeah, because he'll get his, he don't want to keep getting embarrassed. I've seen him go, man, dang, take him in the first round, this dude's getting our quarterback killed. And next thing you know, old B-Hop up there destroying people. I'm like, now I see why. Mm-hmm. And all it takes is a couple games. You can go through the maturation process of training camp, mini camps, OTAs, and then preseason, then regular season. And about 3 games in, you go say, this dude is for real.
Yeah. Jason in Nashville is for real on the phone. He's calling us. Jason, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, thanks for taking my call. Hey, Blaine, I was listening. Yeah, I know, man. They gave me a boost of confidence. Thank you, brother. So I was listening to you, Blaine, as far as about the surgeries and things not being the same. And, man, I completely agree with you, man, because in 2016, by the grace of God, let me praise him first before I complain, because I'm still alive. I got hit by a semi, me and my wife did. Wow. And so I ended up having lower lumbar spinal fusion surgery. And I remember the doctor telling me, he said, well, listen, if I can give you 2 or 3 years, of feeling better, ain't it worth it? And then so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, yes, but now looking back on it, because, see, Blaine, they made me take a class before I had the surgery. And I remember in that class they told us that whenever you have a fusion, the disc above and the disc below will start to deteriorate over time. Mm-hmm. And then now you went from having one back surgery to degenerative back disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My mom's right there with you. Yeah.
Right. And so they said, well, the doctor was like, yeah, but some people never do. But it just all depends on your body, whether you go back in there. And then if you gain weight on top of having back problems, now you got some issues because you can only work out so much, and it just it's like a double-edged sword, man. So when you said that, man, I wanted to call in and basically give my testimony, man, because that's what I'm going through. And you heal better when you're younger, but when you get older and now they want to have another back surgery on you, now it's going to take your body more time to heal than when it was when you had that initial surgery. So y'all have a blessed day. I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
And Jason, man, sorry for everything you've had to go through.
And that's not to say Farley can't come back now, but down the road, it's going to be, why did I keep playing football? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I say that about my knee all the time. Why did I get scope on Monday and then play on Sunday?
Yeah.
That's why my knee's swollen today.
But you couldn't go back with a time machine and convince young you that was a bad idea. Young you would be like, oh no, I'm about to play.
No, I'm like, oh no, my knee fine.
Yeah,
just drain to get it out. I'm ready to go. As long as I get that swelling out, I can go. Well, yeah, good, okay. Yeah, then you get another scope after the season.
Keep kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. But the body say this is not a can.
Your can gets
this
kicked.
This is
eventually.
A human body.
Let's take another call from a human body on the phone. Jeff, all the way from Delaware. What's going on, Jeff?
Yeah, I happened to sit up in that stadium over the weekend. It was miserable. And after the first quarter, it felt like the Titans had no chance.
Yep.
My question is, going into the draft next year, with the wish list, where do the Titans go? Are they looking for weapons, or are they trying to fix that offensive line?
Well, for me, first, I would have to say we don't know. They're going to target all the things on the wish list, but it starts with free agency first. Mm-hmm. So how your plan of attack of what you think you can get and what players are available early on, especially those high-priced, prized players that are free agents, whether it's offensive tackles, then you kind of come up with your strategy, not only for free agency, then that helps you come up with your strategy for your draft because you're targeting guys that are free agents that you think you can get on your roster. And you'll have plan A and B of those free agents, and then you move into what if you don't get, then maybe you try to get in the draft. Or maybe those guys are overpriced in free agency and you don't want to spend that kind of money or that resource enough, for that position group. So then you move and say, well, we'll go draft here. And so that's how you come up with your plan, to me, a plan of attack. So everything is on the table to me, even quarterback, in my eyes, as far as potential. Because you have to have a strategy not only for this season, but you have to have short-term, long-term plan as far as developing players. And Vrabel does a great job of developing players. Yeah. So I'm not so sure that Malik Willis, to be honest, can be a starter in the National Football League. I think he can be a backup, but as of today, I don't know if he can be a starter. So we have to see where he's at Or do I bring in a veteran to be Tannehill's backup until he gets there? Or does that make me feel a little more comfortable, especially if I'm trying to do short-term, long-term? Short-term is I'm trying to get to the Super Bowl. Yeah. If something happens to Tannehill, I don't know if I can actually today win a Super Bowl with Malik Willis as the quarterback. So I'm just using quarterback because that's easier to use. But I have to go after an offensive tackle. Matter of fact, I may sign a free agent offensive tackle, and I may also draft one. I may draft a guard as well. And maybe, in third, fourth round, I may put some priority depending on how many also free agents I lose off my team in positions. As we know, Nate Davis is a free agent. I think Aaron Brewer is a restricted free agent.
David Long's a free agent.
You got to look at the whole big picture. So it's not as easy as let's target these guys for the draft. We all the holes, we can kind of go down the whole list, but you have to know who's all contract is up first, because that's first, and then kind of attack your draft from there.
The other thing is, and again, we haven't mentioned Jon Robinson's name other than just kind of around the Farley stuff and other things that are going on. Somebody asked me the day that the announcement was made, which was, Tuesday. We were at Toy Field when we're all starting to find this out. By the way, thanks again to everybody for making Toy Field so great. And somebody said, well, doesn't he have him set up for the salary cap next year? And I said, have you not seen the salary cap?
See, again,
they're minus $19.662 billion. They're minus $19.662 million. That places them 29th in this, I would say available cap space, but they have none available. That's where
they redid Trees' contract, right? They gave it bonus just like a couple weeks ago, right? A week or so ago.
Apparently, just to have, what would my dad say, walking around money for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Like just to get through the rest of the.
We're also looking around each other. I'm like, oh man, we may sign somebody. Who we bringing in? Naturally the fans. OBJ. No, that is not happening.
No, I mean, it was like just for these defensive backs that you never heard of that they're signing off somebody's practice squad or something. Right. I mean, that's, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take a shot at semi-anonymous NFL defensive backs, but I'm saying like a guy you've never heard of that needs to play 2 games and then they cut him loose. That's what this was more about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this 29th in cap space, $19.662 million. And Blaine, that's what makes it so interesting because you pulled the great point. We're always thinking ahead to the draft and all that. Free agency always comes before the draft.
Well, Emmett Jones hit it on the head. Use your free agents to fill some needs, immediate needs, and then use the draft to get the best player available. That way, teams, and sometimes it leans towards what you need too. That's always would be a conflict for me. Do I take the best available player or do I take what we really need? And probably first round, I'm taking best available player most of the time.
Yeah.
Not unless, when you need if you miss out on free agency at an offensive tackle and it's the best guy on the board, I'm definitely taking that. There's no way around it. Yeah, so.
And JR seemed to be looking for like the best available guy who in his mind was the best deal. Best available guy who was also the best deal.
It's always interesting, too. I think some of the draft guys now are starting to use analytics, and I don't know what form to help them. I think there's use of that, but like how much do you rely on it? I think it's just another tool to help them through the process. So it's complex. A lot of long nights and long hours, but the draft is no joke. That's how you build your team is through the draft.
I mean, we're getting into this. We're into this. The timing of the JR thing. There are some people out there who are insisting, okay, it had to be something else. There had to be something else.
Yeah.
If not, he would have gotten another year, surely, or you wait till the end of the year. And if there is nothing
try to right
else,
the ship. I get the thought process.
Like give him time to try to fix it one more time because of what he's built here. And this thing was in the dumpster when he showed up. The only thing I can think of is this. If you say, if we could have a lie detector test for Amy Adams-Strunk or whomever down there, and they said it was nothing big, it was nothing salacious, and there was no crazy thing going on behind the scenes, nothing like that. It was just the decision that we made, that we had plateaued, and we were never going to get beyond that plateau, so we're going to find the next person to do it. If that's the case, when we're talking about the draft and free agency, at this point, whomever's going to be the next person, if you don't want Jon Robinson to make those selections, hey, move on. So the next guy, if it's Ryan Cowden and if you're going to name him the number one guy, if you're going to bring the next guy in or whatever it is, if you don't want John's opinion anymore, then in my opinion, maybe now was the right time. Like,
Right.
just
Well, not just his opinion, but he has the final say. So
Right.
as far as it, and your coach is kind of sitting there in limbo, like, well, I like the guy, but I like this other guy better.
Yep.
And you're like, nah, well, I like this guy. We did all the research. This is my duties. Yours is the coach. Mine is to pick the players. I got this guy. I'm gonna bring up a different scenario that could have happened, which really, and we discussed this, but not to this level. And I threw out a theory, and you mentioned it on air a couple weeks ago. What if Ohio State came after Mr. Vrabel? Mm-hmm. And so wonder if
the Joe Rexrode column.
he
Yep.
went to her and said, or she asked him, hey, is there any truth to that? Well, they got a lot of buckaroos there. They're not called the Ohio State for nothing. But I would not entertain those things if I had full autonomy to make all the decisions. So you tell me where we going with this. I'll get back with you on Monday. That could have happened. Anybody theorize that, Lucas? Because that was out there. And people start talking about it, and then it became an article, and now it's in words.
If I'm him, and I
Like, hey, I need some more clout.
Yep. I would have looked at her and said, if they going to call too, I'm not going to pick up the phone unless there's at least a 1 and a 0, 10 million attached to the phone call. Maybe more than that. And they'll pay it. College teams will pay you $10 million.
Oh, yeah.
Ohio State paid Mike Vrabel $10 million in the blink of an eye. $10 million. They'd be like, that's all you want? $10 million? Sure.
You got to think, Ohio State's in the playoff, right? Ryan Day's lost like 5 games as the head coach at Ohio State.
Well, at the time when that theorized, they weren't in the playoffs.
Right, no,
Yep.
you're right. But I don't know what would be worse for Ryan Day at Ohio State right now. To lose in the semifinals, go one and done in the playoff after backing into it, or to advance and lose to Michigan in the national championship game.
Sweet mother of pearl.
I think it would be the latter. I think a loss to Michigan in the national championship would be worse for Ryan Day than just losing to TC.
That
or
means he
losing to
lost
Georgia,
twice
I'm
to
sorry.
him.
They're playing
Twice to
Georgia.
him.
Oh, if you lose to Georgia, you lost to Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Now,
lost.
people are still upset with him.
They'd be upset. But if somehow everything happened and you got to Michigan again and you lost, oh my gosh. Because people were hot that you lost to them for a conference championship.
Back to back.
Yeah. Imagine if you lost to them again, back to back to back, and this time for a national championship.
And maybe that's why it was such a quick decision. Now, that's kind of believable, right? Like, oh, I see why. Can't lose your coach. He's already one of the best coaches in the NFL. He's top 5. It is what it is.
Got a poll out there on Blaine and Mickey regarding your thoughts about what's going to happen the rest of the season with the Tennessee Titans. Our director of content, Blaine Bishop, sent this to me a couple of days ago. I put it up. Want to ask you a question about the timing of all this next and how you're feeling. Hang on. I'll ask the question next. It's Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. We will get to the Hitman's question, but Mike in Brentwood has a question. We'll answer Mike's question, and then we'll ask Blaine's question. So we answer them, we ask them, we do it all with questions here on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Mike in Brentwood, what you got, buddy?
The Vrabel ultimatum.
I was just curious about the college football playoff committee, what that process is like. I mean, do they vote? Does somebody make a motion, like a business meeting? I don't know that I've ever heard anybody talk about that. Or maybe nobody knows. I don't know.
You mean as far as how they ultimately make their decisions?
Yeah.
Honestly,
there's a lot of different avenues from schedule strength to head-to-head. They kind of navigate through it all, really using the basis of whatever we want to use, we can make our decision. I think there's a human element to it that we needed, but the computer system was actually okay, too. I think they needed a little mix of both, but that's not what we have.
and I think he's saying, like, do they all, like, write down something on a sheet of paper and put it in at the end count the votes or something? Honestly, I think it's just a bunch of people sitting around a table.
Yeah.
And I think they just, they talk and talk and talk, and somebody finally goes, okay, well, so let's get to business here. Who do y'all think is number one? Well, who's number two? Well, who's number three? Now, maybe they do.
And live it with proof, though, of why you think what you think, and with games and who they played. So probably somewhat similar to the Heisman, and that's a whole nother conversation that Hendon Hooker is not there as a finalist, which I think is deserved. But and so you're never going to always get it right. It's just no way around it. So that's why they're coming up with the 12-team playoff. And then guess what? They're going to be people saying that certain teams, the 13th team or 14th team should have got in. It's going to happen.
Imagine the fights over who's 13 and who's 14, because they're going to be that.
Well, it won't be Arkansas State or Ball State.
It will not be. There's no danger of our team being in that argument. But you're going to have some 9-win, 8-win team from a Power 5 conference, but they only lost to Georgia and Alabama, and it's never going to end. There's always going to be debate. Debate is, how do I say this? The debate is one of the things that makes it what it is.
Yeah.
The debate and the stuff that goes around it, that some people are so happy and some people are so upset. That's why people keep coming back for it, just because. And even if it doesn't go your way, it still had your whole attention for however long, the debate is part of the deal.
Hooked. Yeah, they got us hooked.
That's
why there's a part of me that the passion of college sports, especially football, and the fan bases is just, I don't know if the NFL could ever reach that level, and that's the hook right there, and it will go on and on forever. Like the debate of who should be in, who shouldn't be in. I mean, did you see all the shows that were having the same conversation numerous times? Even the same shows doing the same thing back-to-back days in a row.
Yeah.
Because there really is no wrong answer.
Every blog, every podcast, every phone call, every minute we talk
show.
about it.
Yeah.
It's
I love it.
That's part of what makes it what it is because, and the other thing too with college sports, with the NFL, you only got 32 teams, and there are some super, super unbelievably great NFL fans. That's not what we're saying. But the fact that, like, people who live across the street from each other in Mississippi or Washington or Alabama, Auburn, Alabama fans, whatever it is. Tennessee. The fact that you could, just the way it's subdivided from little town to little town, from state to state, from conference to conference, and the pride that people have, there's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
Like if I grew up in Arkansas in the 70s and 80s, where you didn't have a team. So a lot of people just kind of pick the Cowboys, and I like the Oilers, and people just kind of pick the team. Most of the time, not everybody, but for a lot of people, you live in a state, you root for one of the schools in your state. It's just so subdivided into so many little groups, and they're all so passionate. There's 131 Division I football teams.
Yeah, something like that, 131, 32.
Imagine if there are 131 NFL teams.
Oh, now then we're talking about on the same level. And you just made me think about, I grew up just like most of the people in Indianapolis. Yep. No, but just like the people here in Tennessee. The Oilers moved here to become the Titans. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Indianapolis with no pro team. They moved when I was in high school, my freshman year. I think it was 84, somewhere around there. The Colts moved from Baltimore to Indy. So we inherited a team just like Tennessee did. So I didn't even go to a lot of games or watch a lot of games. The team they always showed was the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
So I was a running back in high school. So I was a big Walter Payton fan.
Sure.
Walter Payton and Tony Dorsett. Naturally, Dallas was on TV everywhere, just like they are now with teams, especially they don't have a market of a pro team. So yeah, that was where I was at. Tony Dorsett and Walter Payton. They were the top of the list for me.
All right, I'm going to throw this question out there, and we'll get to it on the other side, as well as just some Titans headlines. If you're just joining us, there's a little bit of stuff here and there, including former Titans first-round draft pick who has had another health setback. We'll tell you who and what. And here's the question. Does the firing of Jon Robinson change your opinion of what the Titans are going to do for the rest of this season? Does it get them fired up? Does it get them freaked out? Does it do anything? Let's get into that next on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Hour number 2. Yeah, woo! Right here on your radio on a Thursday. I'd love to see the sun come out. You guys have any negotiations with the sun?
Oh, I want
Get
to.
it to part those clouds.
Man.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, because I hate feeling like it's like 6:30. And I'm like, man, it feels like it's 10, man. I'm thinking, hey, man, it's so dark outside. Am I confused? Do I need to go put on my pajamas?
Oh, my son and me were sitting there yesterday. It's
And then like 6 o'clock, I'm like, man, it feels like it's 10.
Oh, total darkness at 6. It's dark AF, dark at 5. I mean, it was basically dark at 4:30 yesterday at my house.
I mean, as soon as I get through eating dinner, I'm like, dang, why does it feel so late?
It's getting late early for Caleb Farley in his time with the Titans. He has a herniated disc. Adam Schefter reported this. He will have a micro discectomy on his back surgery. I don't know much about that. Let's just say back surgery. He's out for the rest of this season. It is now his third back surgery, his first as a Titan. Now, he's also had an ACL surgery as a Titan. So now, third back surgery, also torn ACL, which I guess this was the second one of those.
Yes, it was.
Right.
He tore it his freshman year in Virginia Tech.
Okay. So 2 ACLs and 3 backs now for this poor guy.
3 back surgeries.
Yeah, 3 backs.
He
Surgeries.
may feel like he has 3 backs. Because,
Maybe he got backs.
That's tough sledding for that guy, man. I feel for him there, man. It's just like, wow. Gee, many crickets. I don't wish that on anybody, man. Gonna be a tough hurdle to come back, but we shall see if he can respond with the whole offseason back surgery. I want to see him do some speed work, and maybe he can get back to form, but I don't know if he'll ever get back to what they thought he could be.
Yeah. And at this point, I just wonder, you would know this better than me because you had 10 surgeries. When he comes back, I would imagine you'll have to go extremely slowly, right? Just because you can't have another back surgery. I mean,
Well, I haven't had any back surgery, so I could say I had 10, but that's more. Most of mine were cosmetic, if you want to say that, from an NFL's point of view.
You're right.
Yeah, it's not from a regular point of view. But I never had. My most serious surgery was a reconstructive shoulder surgery. So I never tore an ACL, never tore an Achilles. Broke my forearm, finger, shoulder twice. Scopes on my knees, ankles. Those things. Which in the NFL world, that's kind of just comes with the territory. So back is just a whole nother ball game. I just think that's nothing you want to mess with. I just, I can say all my surgeries, it was never going to be the same even as a young player. But those are much more serious, if you want to give it that, than anything else. The back, spine, every time you hit somebody, collision. I'm not a doctor. I can just say he's overcoming a lot. 2 ACLs and 3 back surgeries. It's just, okay, what are you expecting this guy? And everybody, we can move into safety. I don't even know if he's safety-built body. Because when you say that, then you say, oh, okay, that means his speed is at safety. Well, there's also and he's got ball skills. But you got to also be able to bang.
Right.
And 3 back surgeries, 2 ACLs, what's your change of direction like? Back, you're going to be hitting a lot more than you're doing at corner. So I don't know if he's even that. Like, I just think how much Byard is out there making tackles. Hooker. I just don't know if his body can withstand something like that. So either he's going to have to figure it out at corner or he's not going to be in the league. That's just how I see it. They say, if he lost his speed, let's move him inside. That's the first thing they do.
Right.
And okay, I get it. Now, okay, let's see him in a game and try to go hammer somebody up in there. It's a different mentality. Even the great ones, Hall of Famers who went from outside. I'm going to use Rod Woodson, a friend of mine. Outside that first year he was at safety, he didn't want no parts of that business. He was, I don't know. The second year, then he's like, all right, I got to put my nose up in there. Or halfway through the first season. So it's just a different animal.
Yeah.
Even in today's world where, you can't, it'd be, we just saw, okay, the safety hit Traylon Burks. I never would see Farley doing something like that.
Well, he will be done. His season has ended for the Titans this year. I think he played in what we come up with earlier, 9 games, but his final 4 games that he played this season, he did not play any snaps on defense. So was unable to crack the defensive rotation. He only got special team snaps in each of his final 4 games of this season. He played no defensive snaps. So he did play 9 games. This year he played 3 in his first year, so 12 total games in 2 years for the Titans. 2021 first-round pick, and that was on the heels of a guy, Panda, who played in 1 game as the 2020 first-round pick. And it, again, as these news items happen, it kind of gets us back to the big story of the week that we've talked about over and over again. The guy who drafted those guys isn't here anymore, Jon Robinson. And so you sent me a question a couple of days ago, and I thought about this. Does this change your thoughts on the rest of the season, was the way you sent it. So I put it in kind of a question-type form on Blaine and Mickey. Does this change your thoughts for the rest of the season? Does it have no effect? Is it yes, and it has a good effect on the team? Everybody gets like shaken up, like, oh crap, they fired a GM. We could all go. Or does it have a negative effect? That's the guy that drafted me. Oh no, where does it fit? What do people think is going to happen? One of the responses on Twitter, and I can look this up, he said probably going to need about a year to really start to understand this. But I think the question that you asked though was, I'm not talking results wise. Just what happens with the team now? Does this affect them? Does it distract them? Does it not distract them at all? Like, what happens now for the team? Does this affect them in any way? Their general manager's gone.
Right, who probably more than likely drafted all of them or brought them in as free agent, having, the full control of who's on the roster.
Blaine,
and draft
everybody but Taylor Lewan.
Who's really not there. He's injured, so
right.
He's not there.
So he brought in every one of those people.
Yeah. I think as players, you departmentalize and you can only control what you can control. But that does kind of hit you like, whoa, dang, this is serious. And you go back to work. At the same time as now you say, all I can do is make sure I do my job, because really, ultimately, that's all I can control. And that doesn't even mean that I'm still here after the season's up.
Right.
Yeah, just think about that. And, that's how guys are playing too, with that kind of desperation. And that's why you see guys playing with injuries. We could talk about different guys playing with injuries and they go, oh, man, he's not playing up to form. I mean, because he's injured. Right. And we can go right down to the elite of the elite, Big Jeff. Big Jeff is not playing up to the standard that he set forth there, and we've seen him play at, and it's because he's playing injured. But nobody cares about that. I didn't hear a whisper about Big Jeff in that game, the Eagles game. I don't think he's worried about not being there, but we know what he can do. So that's what I'm saying, being injured and guys playing injured and going through that process. So it's tough. So guys are going to continue to fight through and do their best they can, because if it's not here, it's somewhere else. And that's what you got to believe in and go out there and perform. This is a performance business. They just saw the guy who drafted all of them, as you just mentioned, except for Lewan, who's probably just rehabbing over there and maybe not even at the facility. And so it put them on notice a little bit, though. I would say that. Not only them, but the coaching staff, everyone that works for the organization. She is all about business. We could go down this road and everything else, but she has been very consistent. We could talk about the timing and everything else, but this is no different than Malarkey firing. That was a shocker. The organization was in the dumps, and he took them to the playoffs. He helped build it, actually. He helped them perform. They were winning 4, 5, 6. He kept building the blocks to get there. Guess what? 2 rounds of the playoffs. Not my guy, JR. Said, that's not my guy. I didn't hire him. Y'all did. I didn't. Gone. Well, he hired this guy. Guess what? Vision is history, right? Yeah. He got. Just like so it's been consistent. So I think she's just serious about her craft. And right now, only thing is holding the Titans back from being competitive against the lead teams is those 3 picks, as we just mentioned. Those 2 first-rounders and Dylan Radins. Yeah. Caleb Farley. We can go down to Panda and Dylan Radins. Those guys are supposed to be starting. Imagine if 2 offensive linemen are starting and Caleb Farley's out there playing. And Dylan, I mean, man, this is a different team.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about, we can compete with anybody in the National Football League. Unfortunate, unpredictable with the Panda, but it happened. That's why I said I wouldn't cut him. I would try to fight through this one more year.
I would have too.
I would like, let's help him out. Let's be We got to go down this road of patting on the back and assisting instead of cutting ties. And I'm not there working with him on a daily basis. Maybe they've done that and they felt like they couldn't do anymore. But dude, this is a first round pick. Maybe if we play him, maybe that'd help him. Let's put him out there, because he wasn't playing. A lot of free time, a lot of money, a lot of new things to him. He's a rookie. And we just saw Traylon Burks. He wasn't being a pro early. He came in out of shape. Yeah. They all have to adjust and understand that this is business. Traylon Burks is a quick learner. He learned right. As soon as he got injured, he came back a new, different player. I'm sorry. He was a different player. He was like, this is business. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know how to go out here and play. And he was about to be that dude. It was no question. He was showing the last 3 games. It was like, this is different. So they have to go through that process. And because he was a first-round pick, I don't know if I can do it. But I wasn't there. I don't know all the details of what he was doing in the meetings and everything else. But I would have went as far as I would have pulled a Jerry Jones on him. Remember, who was that player? Was it Pac-Man?
Pac-Man,
I would have had him as security guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. You paid, though. Come out your salary, not mine. As the owner. Well, we going to make this work.
You're not going to go back to TSU and try to jump off a balcony. You're not going to drive your Charger too fast down the road. None of that.
And then you tell him, hey, man, we got to get and then he would have got on the field and we would have said if things start getting better. And it was going to be a maturation process on the field too. And just know, if that's happening off the field, it's going to happen on the field. So, yeah, I would have, I had the way I would have been. And I'm not the most patient person when it comes to, hey, just be a pro. I would have been very patient. I would have gave him 1 more year. I would have waited. And then, Dylan Raisins and Caleb Farley now was injury prone coming in, and it stayed the same. So he hit on one, Big Jeff. He did. And he tore his ACL. So that was just a one injury right before the draft deal, and he dropped. I think that was an easier decision. But, yeah, so. That's the way it goes. Results. Amy has shown that's what she's about. And we want to be a consistent, contending team for the Super Bowl. Yeah. Playoff contending team every year. No one and done and win no division. That's not enough. She's already set the standard. That's the message that's sent to me. That's it. First of all, the players are supposed to be doing what they're supposed to do anyway for themselves. Mm-hmm. Not you won't be around. It's just that simple.
Titans' journey, the next step of the journey is to take on the Jags on Sunday here at noon. You'll hear that game on The Zone. Well, Mark Long covers the Jags for the Associated Press. You've heard him on with us before. You're about to hear him again. We'll find out the latest on Trevor Lawrence, what's going on in Jacksonville. Heck, what do the people in Jacksonville think about the Jon Robinson thing? We'll get into all that next with Mark Long. Now is the perfect time for you to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's right. That's free bets back if you're Lucas, you want to give away something? Is that what we're doing? Lucas's personal prize extravaganza here. Smashville. Don't miss the holiday light show at the Nashville Predators versus Colorado Avalanche game on 23rd of December. Yeah, we're giving it to you, baby. Be caller number 5 now to win tickets to see the Preds host the Colorado Avs on December 23rd at Bridgestone Arena. Caller 5-615-737-1045. Get to your seat early for a special holiday light show and Pix Mob Preds bracelet to be part of the show. You know they'll do it upright. Have friends and family in town for the holidays. Take them to a Preds game to experience Smashville. Get yourself some tickets. Visit NashvillePredators.com/tickets. Don't miss out. Caller 5 will get those. Let's take caller number 1, though, right now. Mark Long of the Associated Press joins us at AP. Mark Long. Mark, we've just been up here all week with nothing to talk about, man. It's been kind of boring.
Yeah, right? Nothing like firing your GM when you're 2.5 games ahead in the division, coming off were they the number 1 seed last year in the AFC? It's unbelievable. Unshocking.
We were trying to think, like, what's even close to this that anybody's done? I'll ask you this. I mean, you covered the NFL for a minute now. Can you come up with anything similar? We're a repeat champion division team who is currently repeating as division champion with a winning record. It's like, yep, it's not good enough.
Yeah, no, it's a head scratcher for sure. It's probably the equivalent of just benching some guy because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Somebody gets benched, somebody gets replaced, somebody might get cut, and you have no idea why. And clearly there's, something going on behind the scenes that nobody else is seeing, nobody else knows about. This can't be just because, he traded away a number 1 receiver and that doesn't seem to be working out. This can't be, the defense is so awful. It just can't be all of it. It's got to be more. It's got to be deeper. There's something we're missing. Everybody's missing it except, ownership and probably Mike Vrabel.
If somebody had gone to you a week ago and said, hey, man, I'll bet you steak dinner anywhere you want to go that Trent Baalke will outlast Jon Robinson with his current team, would you have taken that bet?
Listen, if Chris Ballard doesn't make it through the season, and there's a lot of concern about whether he makes it to next season in Indy, Trent Baalke will all of a sudden be the most tenured GM in the division.
Oh, my. That's where we're at.
So, yeah, that's exactly where we're at. And I even said to Doug Peterson yesterday, I was like, your 30,000-foot view of this division, it's a mess. Houston's lost 7 in a row. The Titans fired their GM. The Colts are already, they've already fired their coach. And who knows what Jeff Saturday's role will be moving forward. I mean, really, the Jags, to some degree, might be, this is the scary part now, this is talking about a team that won 4 games the last 2 years, got 4 wins this year, so 8 wins in 3 years, and they might be in the best shape of any team in this division.
I feel like we should have just gone to commercial right there. I don't know if you'll say anything crazy or more profound.
I love the Titans, and I pick the Titans every year to win the division. They finally proved me right last year. But the reality is they're built around he's going to be 29 in a couple weeks. They're built around a 29-year-old running back. Now, unless he defies Mother Nature and lives to, and he has a shelf life of another 5 years as a running back, nobody sees that coming. But they're built around, no tight end, a rookie receiver, a quarterback who couldn't get out of Miami fast enough, and an aging running back. And a bad defense. That is not the recipe for success or longevity in this league. So, all of a sudden Jacksonville doesn't look so bad when you look around the rest of the AFC South.
Goodness gracious. Mark Long just dropping bombs here on us at AP Mark Long. Covering the
No. Don't drop my Twitter account like that. Now everybody's going to – now you just lit me up. You just put me on blast.
No. It's crazy for us too, man. I think Titans fans would just be like, hey, give us some more of this truth bombs, Mark.
You're right. Okay, good. As long as they see it. But, hey, with all that said, it's really a credit to Vrabel with all those holes that they're still atop the division.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Our guest.
Yeah, and with the Associated Press. I guess speaking of, bombs, I mean, what happened to the Jags versus Detroit? Is there a reason for them getting bombed? Hey, I've been watching them. They've been competitive, but this is the first time they came out like that. So tell us what happened here. Give us a summary of the game against Detroit.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, listen, they couldn't stop the wind on defense. That's first and foremost. And Detroit's pretty good, especially at home. They're a different team at home, and I think they lead the NFL. You have to look this one up, but I'm pretty sure I saw this. They lead the NFL in games scored over 30 points this season. So they're able to do some things offensively. So that was a mismatch. Jacksonville's defense against Detroit's offense. And then the flip side, Jacksonville turned the ball over. They had like 6 drop passes, I think 3 of them on third down. One of them would have been a touchdown. And this is all early in the game. That's in the first half. So, you know, you're all of a sudden, you can't stop somebody, and you're doing the things that you can't do when you have a small margin for error like that. And all of a sudden you find yourself down, you know, 23-6, I think it was, 20-3 before halftime. So it was one of those, I don't want to call it an aberration because I don't know that it was that, but it was probably not indicative of how good Jacksonville is. I do think they're better than that. Are they division winners? No, but they're better than what they showed on Sunday.
Well, where is Trevor Lawrence's, development? I feel like they've been competitive and kind of he's getting better. He's starting to be more decisive. What are you? You're covering him, watching him every game. What would you say about him?
Yeah, I would say exactly what I said about the last week. A little bit of an anomaly. Again, just hampered. I think he had 6 drop passes, and half of them were on third down. So that's just a brutal. And they were good balls. This is not bad balls or high balls. I mean, these are good balls right in receivers' hands. So that was problematic. A couple turnovers, that didn't help. And so there's that. But you look at the 3 games before that, the kid was nails. I mean, he was lights out, and it looked like, okay, he's finally turning a corner. He's kind of figured it out now. 10 games in, 11 games into his first year with Doug Peterson, he's kind of got a feel for the offense, got a feel for what the receivers can do, and is really doing some good things. So that's what we saw. And then kind of, it's like, 1 step forward, 2 steps back last week at Detroit because, it just didn't look good. Now, granted, that wasn't all his fault, but he also, we thought blew out his knee in that game. When you go look at that play, boy, it looked bad. Yeah. And it turns out it's just a sprained toe out of it. So he feels pretty fortunate about that, but, didn't practice yesterday, limited today. We'll see how much he goes tomorrow. But I think he'll play. It's just going to be a pain tolerance issue for him.
Who's the backup quarterback?
C.J. Beathard.
Oh, he's from Nashville. He's from Nashville. Yeah, he went to high school here.
2-10 all-time career as a starter. So
it was the players around him. Watch out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he could get it done. He's not. It's not like they're throwing. Now I'm going to sound like I'm bashing the Titans again. Not like they're throwing a rookie in there if he can't play.
Well, I guess talk about, 2 of the things that a lot of conversation with Jaguars in the National Football League was a big conversation. That is the first-round pick Walker as well as Christian Kirk, who kind of transformed the market for wide receivers. How are they doing?
Yeah, Kirk's been great, fantastic, actually. I think he's got 8 touchdown catches. He's been Trevor Lawrence's go-to guy. He was not the issue last week. He actually played really well, was really probably the lone bright spot on the offense. He's been fantastic. And they really think that next year when they get Calvin Ridley, they made a trade for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
And if they can get Calvin Ridley, they think Calvin Ridley can be a 1 in this league, or at least maybe a 1A. That's only going to make Christian Kirk a little bit better because he's at his best when he's in the slot. So they'll put him there, and they like that receiving core with the 2 of them moving forward. The other guy you talked about, Trayvon Walker, hit and miss, up and down. He makes a play or 2 a game, but he's often out of position. Not as good as we thought against the run, and certainly not very good as a pass rusher. And that's their number one issue on defense. They have 0 pass rush, like nothing. Nada, zip, zilch, nothing.
Really?
And that's a real issue when you've spent the money and the draft capital on that side of the ball that they've spent.
Where's Allen?
It's pretty staggering. I mean, they knew he was a project when they drafted him. They had said, we think he's got more upside than Aiden Hutchinson, but you know, we know it's going to take him a little bit to get there. So there's that. The real issue is Josh Allen. You know, this is a guy, they picked up his 5th-year option, so they're kind of stuck with him next year. And, you know, they're paying him pretty good coin here, and he's been just complete no-show all year. You know, one time a game, maybe he'll be in the backfield, but for the most part, he's not. He just gets stonewalled. So that's a huge problem. They're not very good at one cornerback spot. They've benched Shaquille Griffin. He's probably done in Jacksonville. They've gone really young at one cornerback spot. And then their linebackers. They got the other first-round pick was Devin Lloyd, who was the NFL Rookie of the Month in September.
Oh, yeah.
And he just, fell off a cliff
Utah.
after that. And now he's been benched. They got Chad Muma in there in place of him, another rookie.
What?
3rd-round pick. And he hasn't been a lot better. So, you know, when you add it all up, you got no pass rush, you got a rookie linebacker, and you've got a rookie cornerback on one side, you got a second-year safety, a second-year cornerback. It's just a lot of youth over there, and they're not playing very well. So they have been in a downward spiral defensively for the last 6 or 8 weeks. And what looked like it might be the strength of their team early on is now their biggest weakness, and it's not even close.
What is the health of the team?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty healthy. I mean,
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence is the big
one.
question mark, right? Like, where is he gonna? Is he gonna play? Is he not? Andre Cisco, the second-year safety I was talking about, missed last week's game, but they expect him back this week. And then Muma, the other rookie linebacker, who's replaced Devin Lloyd. He's been in and out of practice this week a little bit with I think it's a ankle or hamstring, one of those two. So they've got a little dinged up. For the most part, they're healthy. They're still rolling with all 10 of 11 starters from day one. I think they lost their left guard, Ben Bartz, early in the year, replaced him with a veteran, Tyler Shatley. They've been fine up front. So from a health standpoint, there's no finger pointing there. That has not been an issue for this football team.
We're on with Mark Long with Associated Press covering the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mark, you just kind of watch games and you watch series, especially with teams in the division, and you start to think like, man, this seems like it's been a little one-sided. This has really been a one-sided series for a while now. The Titans have won 8 in a row. They've won 9 of the last 10. Or they've won 8 in a row at home, 5 in a row overall, 9 of the last 10. I mean, I'm sitting across from Blaine Bishop, who can tell you all about what it's like to play the Jaguars, but this sucker has gotten really one-sided recently.
Yeah, I haven't beaten them since 2013. Here.
Yeah, and the Jags have a few of these, right? They've lost 9 in a row to Houston, no matter where that game is. 8 in a row in Nashville. They've won 7 in a row against Indy at home, and then they've lost 20 straight against the NFC. So it's like, this is a Jaguar problem. This isn't necessarily a Tennessee Jacksonville anomaly. This is a Jags problem. They got all kinds of streaks like that where they've just shows you how bad this franchise has been for so long now. But the one in Nashville is a little bit, pretty stunning though. That's been a tough place to play. When you go back and look at it, the last win was 2013, arguably the worst Jags team in franchise history. I think they were 0-8 and coming off a bye week when they went into Tennessee and won. They got a turnover late, a strip sack, I believe, and to win that game. And that was the one Delaney Walker, if you remember, called it disgusting. And I think eventually apologized to the city for losing to the Jags at home. I mean, it really was something. That was their last win, and they haven't really been close. They've had maybe a couple of them have been kind of close, but a lot of them have been just one-sided. Doug Marrone didn't win in Tennessee. Obviously, Urban Meyer last year lost 20-0 and got fired 3 days later. So it's kind of been a house of horrors for the Jags, and especially when you throw in some of Derrick Henry's accomplishments against Jacksonville up there. It really has not been a fun place for them to play.
With Mark Long at AP, Mark Long covering the Jags and Gators down in Florida.
Yeah, no doubt about it. My buddy, I haven't talked to him in a while. How's he doing on the defense side? I think Caldwell, is he calling the plays there?
Mike Caldwell.
Yeah.
First
played
year
with him in Philly.
Linebackers coach with the Bucs previously.
Great guy. Very human being.
Yes, great guy. He's got I think it's his niece, plays plays professional basketball with the WNBA. So he's good dude. It's not been good for him, though. I mean, a lot of people are wondering whether, how much of the defense is his scheme, how much of the defense is him calling plays as a first-year DC. But, it's hard to assume that that's the problem. I really look at this thing and, it's got to be Josh. Josh Allen wasn't any good last year. So this isn't Mike Caldwell. You didn't make Josh Allen any worse.
Watch him get 2 sacks versus us. Watch that.
Yeah, right. And now he might. Listen, I watch those tackles a little bit, right?
Yes.
They've been suspect. So he just might. But I still think it's a young defense in the first year in the new scheme in a 3-4, and you've got youth everywhere, and you got a hole at that a big gaping hole at one cornerback. You got no center push on the defensive front, and you got one defensive end outside linebacker who just can't get home, and then the other one's a rookie who's probably hit the rookie wall at this point. So they got all kinds of issues. I don't think Caldwell is necessarily atop the list, but I wouldn't necessarily put it out of the question that is he the scapegoat at the end? I don't know, maybe. But I think year one, I could see Doug Peterson just rolling, trying to keep everybody in place, roll with it into year two, and see then if year two you don't make some progress with all these young kids.
All right. I guess 2 questions about Florida kind of tied together. I guess your thoughts on Richardson, the starting quarterback, going to the NFL. Was it expected? As well as who's going to be the starting quarterback in the bowl game?
Yeah, it was totally expected ever since really his first start this year. He played Utah there at home and 3 touchdowns, all rushing, but he had this phenomenal 2-point conversion where he just completely juked a linebacker in midair, did a whirly-bird spin, and ended up throwing a dart for a 2-point conversion. And from that moment on, everybody's kind of been thinking, okay, that was it. This is a one-and-done guy. We think he's going to go pro. Now, with that said, he totally regressed and was up and down all year.
He looked good against Tennessee, boy, throwing the football.
Yeah,
Woo.
He did. He played really well in the state of Tennessee. I mean, hey, the Titans might want to consider him. He threw for 800 yards in 2 games in Tennessee against against the Vols and then the Vandy there. So he threw for about 800 yards. So he was really good in that state. He wasn't very good anywhere else. He was okay here and there, hit and miss, good plays, bad plays. But the completion percentage was a problem. It was really low, the lowest since Treon Harris, I think, in 2015. So, and it was like he was good on deep balls, but it was like sometimes he's a willing runner, sometimes he's not. But the real thing is like those easy passes, like 3rd and 6, 7 yards right over the middle. He was missing those guys left and right and all day. And it's like that's where you've got to have accuracy to play at the next level. You got to be able to hit all those short passes. So that's where I think he's going to struggle. I really still believe he's a project. If any team drafts him thinking he's a savior and he's a plug-and-play starter, franchise-type quarterback, they are just woefully mistaken, are going to be super disappointed. That's not who he is. I think he's much more of a Malik Willis type, where maybe even Jalen Hurts, where you give him some time to sit behind somebody and see what he is 2 or 3 years down the road. And
5 words.
They got all kinds of issues. They've lost 4 quarterbacks now, if you include him and Jalen Kitna. They've lost 4 quarterbacks in the last 8 months, and scholarship quarterbacks. So they're going to be starting Jack Miller, who's a former Ohio State backup who transferred last December, and this will be his first collegiate start in that bowl game.
Okay.
Cool.
Mark, good stuff, man. Lots of good stuff. At AP Mark Long, always good to catch up with you, sir, and maybe we'll bump into each other on Sunday up here in Nashville.
Sounds good.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
See you then,
Mark Long, always great catching up with him. We'll catch up with you for one final segment when we come back, including who practiced today, who didn't practice today. We'll let you know next.
Front row.
Yeah. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Who practiced? Who didn't practice? So yesterday, 6 guys missed practice. Danico and Fulton and David Long and Trey Avery all did not practice, nor did Traylon Burks or C.J. Ward, who are on the offensive side. This is per Jimmy Wyatt today. Among those not spotted at practice, Traylon Burks, Jeffrey Simmons, Derrick Henry, Danico Autry, Christian Fulton, David Long Jr.
Yeah, man. I'm going to say it like this. I know everybody's assuming, especially after Mark Long talked about the Jaguars. Hey, man, I'm going to say this. Maybe those guys aren't living up, but people going to think this is crazy. I would say because of where they picked in the draft, they have, let's say, a more talented team. That doesn't mean they live up to their talent. But as far as just talent, when he says Allen is not getting any pressure, I'm like, what? The guy was a first-round pick. Walker, first-round pick. They went first round because of their talent. Yep. Not to say they're better football players, but they're a more talented team. Everybody bashed, Christian Kirk going and resetting the wide receivers market. He really set for A.J. Brown and everybody else. Yep. They were like, what? Mm-hmm. And well, guess what? He's living up to that. And I thought he was a solid player. Now, should he got that amount? I don't know.
He's 62 catches, 800-plus yards, and 7 touchdowns.
He
Christian
can inside
Kirk.
out, and he can return punts in the front. He can do a lot. I watched his whole career through A&M. He was there with Johnny Manziel, so he was a pretty good player. Notice he didn't say anything about Zay Jones or anything. And one thing we didn't get to talk to him about is ETN may be one of the fastest, if not the fastest, running back in the National Football League.
Hey, Zay Jones has 60 catches.
Right, but he didn't mention him.
Yeah.
But they got a nice little receiving core there.
And ETN, that's
woo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so they have some elite level talent now. How you utilize it and how they're performing and where they're at in their development is 2 different stories. But this is going to be a dangerous game. The Titans better get after him early, and Derrick Henry better just abuse him. If not, this is going to be one that's going to go down to the wire.
Titans have a 3-game lead over the Jags with 5 games left to play. It's what the standings are. The Titans are 7-5, and the Jags are 4-8.
So the Titans just beat them and then win another division game. They're pretty much locked in, right? Or maybe it's 3 more games.
No, I mean if they beat the Jags, it would almost do it. But if they beat the Jags and win 1 more, then I don't think the Jags could win enough games to even pass them at that point. Right. So if the Titans win 2 more
in the AFC,
I think if they beat the Jags and win 1 more game besides that, then it's over. It doesn't matter. Okay. So that's 9 wins. If they get to 9 wins and one of them is the Jags, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but if they get to 9 wins and one of them is the Jags,
so they can finish 9-8. Let's say they never win a game. 100%.
Oh gosh, yes. What? And after about a month into the season, because I think we all thought, well, maybe the Titans could win 10, maybe this year, 11, because you said you didn't think the roster was good, and I agreed with you because we all watched what happened with it. But I kept thinking, I bet 9 wins will win this division. 8 might win it, Blaine. 8. You could be 8-9 and win this sucker.
Hey.
Yeah, but they just need to win the Jags. They need to win this game.
Well, let's just make them be the Jags. And not the Jaguars.
Well, let's hope. But 3HL will be talking about it all next. They got you covered on the ride home.
Yeah, in the meantime.
In between time.
Peace.